Okay, so I have again the motive. You will see it changes actually after 3 weeks. So we are kind of still passionate about every completed project has a secret life rooted in the joys and difficulties. Yeah? And here the emphasis, of course, on motivation and the enthusiasm that you actually bring to the process and getting the project done. Yeah? So setting the scene is always quite a difficult task without going too much in dry theory. So I wanted actually to use that a little bit to present a few headings from famous leaders in the industry or that are seen as such, and what their perspectives are. Yeah? So it's a little bit polemic. This means that it's supposed to create an opinion in you, I hope. Yeah? And I hope it's inspiring a little bit. So, so let's look at that a little bit with the structure of an organization and the context maybe in mind. So here the first quote, to give you an idea of that, is from Tom Alexander, Chief Executive from Virgin Mobile. And he literally said, this business is really successful at working in a particular way. It is very flat, very open, and going forward we must not lose that. We must not lose the magic. Yeah, please come in. So in a way, this emphasis is probably like trying to bring in that they are all together in it. Yeah, but is that true? Yeah? This is a big question. Yeah, so is this a business without structure? That is a question. Yeah. So for your business, you may want to consider: can you afford to have a flat, open management system with no hierarchy? Some of you have tried this last semester, yeah, in a group experiment of trying to do group work together. Some of you may have the pleasure of doing this next semester. Yeah. So hierarchy, is it functional? Do we need it? That's a question. Has anybody worked in a company without hierarchy? No hierarchy, no leader, no boss, all equals? No. Oh, okay. Some people already shake their head. No, that doesn't exist. In the teamwork last semester, anybody? Did you have a flat hierarchy? Yeah. So who was the leader at the time? Was there a leader? Was there no leader?
I don't think we were a special leader. We were just like all discussing and deciding as a consensus.
Okay. So leading by giving input, but then making decisions democratic or by reasoning or?
Yeah, reasoning and actually measuring the pros and cons of each decisions and deciding for the best one.
Okay, so evaluating the options and then deciding on it. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. Is that true for Virgin? I doubt this. Yeah, but okay. So another type of business. Yeah, this comes from Pitch It and Pound, and there's a whole discussion actually going on. They basically pointed out you want pistols, hot-blooded people, bent on making their mark. Not mild-mannered, conforming types who will succumb to the awesome power of existing culture. So people that push on. A word of caution, of course, with this. Yeah. So it was literally in the context of talking about hot-blooded people, thirsting, ambitious. So again, the question: yeah, can you hold on to people like this? Is this actually creating a culture where you want to work? Would you want to work for a company like that? Organization where it's quite straightforward. Some people are not too keen on this. Yeah. Somebody keen? Somebody experienced? Oh, I see. Yeah. Why do you think this would be good?
Yeah, people are direct and usually honest as well. Whereas if people try to tell you something and just like turn around because they don't really dare to say your work was really bad. Whereas if people say direct, so they just tell you straight away it was really bad or it was really good as well.
Okay, yeah, but there's a culture implication. So sometimes there's a thirst, or you can see it as beneficial. Yeah, getting direct feedback. You can then learn easier and adapt, yeah, it shapes you as well. Yeah, so you can improve along this, but at the same time quite confrontational. Not everybody's cup of tea, quite frankly. Yeah, and it can actually create as well a culture where you come to a point where you don't want to belong anymore. Yeah. This is really a more recent research project, and when we think of structure and relationships, we had both in the previous quotes. We have actually a whole literature, and we will unfold it a little bit. And quite frankly, the pillars are basically twofold. Yeah. So with this theory, we are looking at how can we perform better? How can we be more productive? But this is, of course, a theorem that is often quite abstract. How do you measure that? Yeah? So in this module, we look actually at the history of what has been done in the past with hard and soft tools. And I've kind of given you the quote, but I read the different pillars out. So the management pillars that we have to organize our people are hard, and here we think of structuring, processes, systems, matrix, yeah, and here, so for example, we can structure. You have the role of the quantity surveyor. You are the architect. You are the project manager. You are the client, yeah, and then we give it a specific profile. So what is implicit in this role as a client? You have to kind of come up with what you want, at least a little bit. Now the architect can then help you visualizing it and so forth. Yeah? So this would be a structural features. Then we have as well processes. Yeah? So we can modulize actually the whole project. We do this as well. And then we can look at systematic interaction, and then we can make it more exciting. So if you actually do a project and it's not within the same companies, then you have as well matrices. Yeah? So people come into your project from different company silos and so forth. Yeah? So those are the structural features. And I'll give you the example in a second. But we have as well the soft ones. And the literature says as well they're incredibly helpful, if not even more powerful. Yeah? So to actually collaborate on a project, you need to have the soft side too. You can get only so far with the hard, with the structure. Yeah? You can tell them what their role is, but if they don't want to perform, yeah, if their attitude is wrong, then you are in trouble. You can fire them and get a new one, but you start the same game again. So this is a very hard notion with stick combined. Yeah? But the soft notion here is involved in the feelings. This is incredibly soft. Yeah? Create an environment where people want to belong. Yeah? Interpersonal relationships, that they can talk to each other without a problem. Yeah? Then as well, character traits, being basically sensitive, what their personal character traits are. Yeah. So quite frankly, what Mongeau, he's actually from an institute in Paris at the moment, a scholar here in the UK. So he's actually a guest professor in the university over the road, and very passionate about this topic. And he argues that if you focus only on that, you create actually a certain dilemma. You actually create a very complicated environment. Yeah? I have to explain that a little bit to make the case. So he says actually, if change is required, the hard pillar is unable to solve the problem. So we have to actually question this, because this is our current answers. Yeah? If you have a problem with somebody, yeah, and you try to solve it, then our traditional organizational concept, and we have done that, yeah, even on a professional level in construction, you make a new role in between. Yeah? If there's a conflict of interest between the architect, for example, yeah, and now the communication to the construction site, yeah, then you invent a new role in between. For example, the architectural technologist. Yeah, this is our structural answer, but how many problems do we have now? If we create a new role in between, how many negotiation points do we have now to get an output? Yeah, well, you have three people having to negotiate before you had two, but there are you have 2 points of negotiation now. Yeah? Before you had one. So now the architect has to negotiate with the architectural technologist, and then the architectural technologist has to negotiate, yeah, with the people on site. Simplified. Yeah? So it adds complicatedness. Yeah? Sometimes it's good. Now we come to the second point. Yeah? This is a soft pillar. The soft pillar really encourages kind of a relational approach. Yeah? This is an interpersonal feeling. And this works as well good, yeah, to the stage where you can actually talk to each other, yeah, what you pointed out. You want a direct answer. You won't be able to negotiate. But how is it when you, let's take very personal relationships. What is a very personal relationship? With a good friend. Do you want to compromise in a negotiation with a good friend? Okay, you say no? Yeah. What do you want?
Amicable result.
Yeah, or the best for both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's think of a concrete example. It's yeah, let's go with football night. So we have football night. Yeah, there are 2 teams on. One is in favor of somebody from Sunderland. Oh, I'm on thin ice here. Okay, well, we have a Sunderland fan and we have a Newcastle team fan. Yeah, and they both play at the same time. Which football game do you watch?
This weekend it's good for both.
Oh yeah, it's a derby, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so. Yeah, no, okay, but they're playing 2 other teams. I think today or yesterday, right? Yeah. Anyway, so anyway, they both play at the same time. What do? You have only one television. What do you do? As a good friend.
Watch Newcastle.
I like the bias. You give in to your friend, yeah. The alternative, if you have no issues, yeah, you buy a second television, yeah. You both watch your game. You don't want to compromise, yeah. This is hard, yeah. So in a way, you actually start not negotiating the way forward, but you make resource-constrained decisions of kind of accommodating everything. And in tough decisions, yeah, when it comes to change. This is kind of like going beyond the functionality potentially of the organization. So we have a hard problem here with those traditional approaches. If you have comprehended this all in its implications, then you are finished actually for the semester. Yeah? This is what we are trying to understand. We will have a look at the hard pillar and at the soft pillar and actually see the implications that you can use them functional. Yeah? Here Moreau gave us actually smart simplicity for projects, and he described it in understand what your people do. And that is not just the role description, but what they actually do, what drives them, yeah, why they're actually in the project. Yeah? Does that make sense? So if you're performing in a project, what do you actually do? What are you contributing to the project? How can I help you? How can you help me? This is kind of where you want to arrive. Then you want to reinforce integrators. That is us, project managers. If you have a project manager, you have to ask for the right power. Yeah? There's no point in having a project manager if he has to come with every decision to somebody else. Then you just have employed an additional person to speak to the people because you don't like to speak to the people. Yeah? So there's a certain implication. We have a look at that as well in detail. And then increase total quantity of power in the system. If you recruit people for roles in your team, empower them to do so. Yeah? Don't recruit people in a difficult way and then not trust them or don't allow them to perform what they actually came for. It's a classical thing. We will see that in a lot of examples. It all looks a little bit like common sense, but you will see it's actually harder than this thing here. Yeah? Then extend the shadow of the future. Now this is something that normally project managers are a little bit uncomfortable, but it's expose people basically to the consequences of their actions. Yeah? In some industries this is easier. So in automotive we do this actually, which is interesting. So the project team that did the design for a certain car, yeah, and they're being asked to build a robust design for the automotive, yeah, that is reliable, that has very few repairs, and the repairs that need doing are simple to do. What do you do once the design is finished? Where do you put them? Well, 3 years down the line, you put the project manager in the repair center. Yeah, and you tell them, this is your next place. Yeah, so this is kind of the relationship. This is very simplified. We look at that in a little bit more detailed dynamics. This means as well, if you work actually with subcontractors, yeah, that you give them the prospect. Well, we do that already at project level. Yeah? So in construction, how do we extend the shadow? If they work on our project and they're doing well, you list them as a preferred subcontractors. Yeah? You build a relationship to actually keep those people close to you and keep them basically in their role where they're strongest. Yeah? Then it's as well, increase reciprocity. I can't really say it properly, yeah, but what does that mean? Yeah?
Reciprocity, like in a side concept where you're able to relate with your partners. You respect their opinion, you respect their options, and you allow them, you give them room for everybody to bring their opinion forward. You respect their views and you put them into context and you give it a thought.
Yeah.
It's not like a concept where being the head of the project, you're like the only option, you give the final point. There's no way anyone will contest your view.
You hold people accountable, yeah, for their expertise or competence that they bring to the table. It leads to the next point. Yeah, you request that as well. Yeah, so in a way, okay, this is my competence. Yeah, I've delivered this, and you have to rely on this. If I haven't done that, you come back to me and say like, hey, this is not finished yet. You have to do this. Yeah? So this has to do as well with our relationships, how we actually set them up. Yeah, contractually, there are a lot of loops. Yeah? And then last but not least, reward those that cooperate. Yeah? So in other words, those that ask for help and help others, and as well penalize those that don't ask for help or that don't actually offer help when requested. Yeah? So if you follow those, so it seems then in construction we are on the safe side. Yeah? So this is actually his argument. He says that if you apply that to the construction context and the industry, then you are on a good track to long-term success and short-term success. Yeah? And we have to get our head around that. Yeah? So here you go. This is what we are actually looking at. And I can tell you now, he found productivity, so the literature to it, disappointing and quite sad. Yeah? Unfortunately, we have to work through a lot of it, but you can add your own literature to it and make it exciting. Yeah? So this is in a way a good way. Okay, any questions at that point? Shall we look a little bit in the details and make sense of it? Okay. So, I have one more setting the scene. It's a quick one if you want. So, the view, do we need actually to manage people? Yeah, yeah, this is a long argument. I will just summarize it really. We have really just come to terms in the last 20 years with the notion of looking at the good of human resource management. Yeah? And this is a long-standing argument, and it has been pulled in both directions. There was a question, why do you not just employ, and this is a culture that we as well recognize, hire and fire culture. So if you are committed, yeah, if your attitude is right, and your aptitude as well, so you can do it and you want to do it, then we keep you. If you can't do it and you are not in it, then we fire you. But we figured very quickly out it runs a society down. Yeah? It's a bad idea to do. So this is really the notion of focusing as well on the people aspect. Yeah? And as a project manager, this is very important for us too. Yeah? Because you actually manage people for the duration of the project. Yeah? Maybe just short term, maybe some for the whole project. So you have to give as well that feedback that those individuals can develop their career, yeah? can develop and have the opportunities to move on in the direction where they want to. Now that is why I put that in. This is actually a long debate, and you saw some of the quotes already earlier on. It's really the debate why we should look at human capital. That was a rhetoric, but there's still this gap, yeah, because all the incentives don't necessarily mean success, and that is what we want to look in. Yeah. So in a way, what are the essential ingredients for creating an organization where you are happy to be, and where people invest in you, and where you are happy to invest in the people around you? Now that is when you arrive at what people have described as competitive advantage, but I would just call it probably self-interest. Yeah, this is when you can actually thrive and become who you want to be, or stay who you want to be. Yeah, that may change, but you will see what I mean. Yeah. So what are the current issues? We had that already for some of you in the seminars. Yeah. Who needs people? And we have to go a little bit through this. We will actually go in depth into this in the seminar. So, current issues in your organization. Which one are you thinking of? Maybe not straight away the people from the seminar this morning, because you had already a chance. But maybe if you haven't had the chance to think about it now, what are the hot topics around you? Maybe in your business, maybe in your society that you participated in, or maybe in your country where you're from. What are the hot topics at the moment? Maybe one or two. Yeah?
The collapse of the construction industry due to a civil unrest.
Collapse of the construction industry through civil unrest.
Yes.
That is a big one.
Yes.
Okay, give us a little bit context to this. What happened?
Some people decided that they didn't like how things were going, so
Yeah.
they petrol bombed and blew things up.
Okay. And in what was the basis that they were not happy with how things were going?
I'm a little bit biased. I think they were wrong.
Okay.
They didn't think that they were receiving particularly good lifestyles provided by the government, so they decided to protest and cause a lot of violence. But they've got better things than the UK citizens have from their government, so I don't understand. They get free housing, free healthcare, free education, cheaper electricity, cheaper fuel, subsidised by the government.
What country is that?
We have people moving, yeah? Incentive is given there.
But this is the point. This was the point, and they caused so many problems that it caused most businesses to collapse around the country, because people just were not coming in. So they were blowing things up. People were scared. Part of the reason why I'm back in the UK, my wife didn't want to come out, so I couldn't work there. So that's more resources being drained from the country due to civil unrest and the media.
So that is quite a drastic one, yeah?
Yeah.
And as a consequence, it has brought the industry, probably not just construction,
It brought the
but it
industry
has,
to its knees.
yeah, it has brought it to a halt.
Practically 90% of construction stopped in the country overnight. And the ones that did continue, the companies collapsed. So everything had to slow to almost a complete stop for maybe 2 years before things could start to move again. Even now, it's still struggling.
Okay, so quite drastic, yeah, and there is of course a question, yeah, well, why did they then demonstrate? So the comparison or the premises must have been strong enough to actually create a movement that they didn't come to work, yeah, and that humans normally don't do that just as a joke, yeah. Some do, yeah, but normally you don't get the masses.
There's a lot of conspiracy around that, surrounding, was it Iran, was it...
Oh, okay, you think in countries.
It's partly to do with the the Middle East thing, where it's the overthrow your government because it's the best way to do it mentality. Egypt and all that. Yeah.
So associated with a green spring, but effectively, if you look at the things that are observable, before we go into conspiracy theory, this was certainly something that was led, and there were enough followers to actually not turn up, and they actually brought the work organization to a halt.
Not just that, people were actually scared to go into work. Number one, it's people physically couldn't get to work at one point because they were people on the streets. You either went to work through crowds of people who were probably going to get you, or be blown up accidentally by a gas canister exploding or a petrol bomb being thrown at your car. So those are the sort of things that, should I go to work? Should I stay at home?
So quite drastic actually,
Yeah.
I remember that was not so long ago, actually just before I started here in the UK. It's where in South Africa we had a similar movement that was a mining strike, for raising wages. Similar story. People wanted to go actually to the mines because they didn't actually belong to that union, and one guy was killed by tribe. So he tried to actually get through the demonstrations and was killed, and this frightened basically all the workers. And then the movement was as well so powerful that have a look what the outcome was quite drastic, but anyway, that didn't work for some days, and this is of course a very hot topic, As a project manager, this is when you have holidays, and you hope for negotiations in a positive way to create again a culture of trust, because if this gets settled, you have frightened people at work.
It's done so much damage to the country that it's now fragmented. People will not hire people from the other sect. So now, if someone says they're Sunni, they will only be hired by the Sunni. If someone says they're Shia, the Sunni people just go, no way, you're trouble. We don't want you anywhere near here because you could cause problems. Which, at the end of the day, has caused so much grief that now most of the workers, some of them are Sunni, they just can't, as Shia, they can't be hired anymore due to fear that they're going to destroy the site. What can you do?
So this is, of course, so in a way, trust is undermined on the deepest level. This needs a lot of diplomacy. If you're a project manager, you're on weak grounds here. The performance or productivity KPIs are kind of out of the window at that point. You restart at zero actually. Okay, maybe another issue. One more, quick one.
We have this issue of whereby to win a bidding, you have to be basically the lowest tender wins bidding. I have this situation whereby in some part of the world, in this side I'm coming from, where bribery and corruption has filled the area, where you as a project manager or the contractor, you know that the lowest bid wins the contract, and then you still have to know at the back of your mind that there are some other people to win the contract. There are some other things you have to settle, like there are some other people you have to pay to help you get the contract. And at the end of the day, you discover that when you finally get the contract, the funds you have or the funds that you'll be given to execute the work will no more be enough to complete the work. So you end up either stopping the work on the way, like halfway, or you end up getting broke, that you have to go and borrow, and then either the company breaks down or liquidates and all those stuff.
And most instances at the completion stage, it's very rare you get paid when you submit your final completion certificate for payment. And it's basically political issues. Although I know some bidding process, you go through open process where everybody can bid, but at the end of the day, they still break it down to negotiated bidding, where within the political circle, they have to appoint a contractor or a project management firm or a construction company that will handle the project. And I think it tends to stampede on the more credible contractors from getting the job. And at the end of the day, the political circle, their agent finally gets the job, and at the end of the day, they do a short job or abandon the project. Because in Nigeria, there are many abandoned projects that could have changed a whole lot of people, employment, and a lot of contractors, qualified civil engineers, and
So
project
lots of
managers, and they just roam around the street without a job.
Yeah.
When
So it's underlining a lot of other issues. Yeah? You indicate here governance, as well accountability of the individual professionals.
Yes.
Yeah, and actually pay how it's actually paid out. Yeah, so this is of course very concerning. And if you look at this, this is normally a peak point of where industries either get. Yeah, you will see that it either that historically, if you study that, you will see that in a lot of political regions like that, you have either undermining or you start outsourcing with higher institutions that do the funding because you don't trust the local funding. So this is when governments normally collaborate closer with IMF or World Bank and try to move actually away from the self-governed schemes, which is undermining often the industry itself, which is very sad to see. If you're interested in this, one documentation and ethnographic research which was very well done on this is a documentation on not Nigeria, but Angola faced very similar matters, especially what you mentioned with people bidding and getting contracts, and then quite frankly when they actually realized who all is involved to actually let them do the work, and what's involved with it, how much pay, they arrived actually at a budget that couldn't deliver what they were setting out to do and what they agreed to do in the first place. And it's a fascinating project of a very large Chinese company that documented this with BBC. It was a partnership agreement, and they tried to create transparency in Angola. And it became incredibly uncomfortable for the officials because the politicians were suddenly faced from these reporters with the questions. But you can see the chain of negotiations that had to actually happen to push the project on. And the Chinese company did actually a very good job. They built a very big highway and built as well some refinery plants for chemicals. Or for minerals really, and I think it is a very hot topic. It's certainly something that we have to look at. There are systematic issues here, also structural, but there is as well something with relationships. We are back at the notion, where the relationships are maybe a little bit too tight, to keep each other's respect of professionalism and hold each other as well accountable for it. But thank you very much. In advance, I did like that. Okay. So what does the value actually that the organization places on you? There is a huge raft of literature around it. So often when you study web pages, when you apply for jobs, have a look actually what they emphasize. So the web pages are often a good starting point and indicator to see what kind of culture is probably in the company. You have to be a little bit careful. When the companies are very big, they have often a marketing team that does it for them, so then it's often not reflected in it. But when you go into companies, talk to the employees about this. This is often quite exciting. What would be maybe an indicator where you would feel valued? What would be important in a project team for you?
Working closely with the management.
Closely with the management? And what do you associate there with the management?
If you're in a really, really big company, you don't know who you're actually working for. You don't know what they want or what they're doing, anything that's happening. In some of the companies I've worked for, it's been like that. Though the best companies that I've worked for, the manager has been on the floor with you. You can go talk to him about anything that you need to talk to him about, and that is your point of call. He listens to you, he tells you, alright, this is what you should do on this situation, and you go back. That sort of supportive role where the manager is there with you, communication, you know who he is, you know what he wants, is much better for me, because you actually feel like you know who you're working for, you know what you're doing. You feel
So
part
it's
of it.
nearly like a shop steward, yeah, if you take it as a metaphor, isn't it? So somebody that is really there to support you, clarify matters, yeah, get you on the right track, to actually get on with the job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Maybe another example.
I'm meeting the companies that set targets.
Okay, so being able to achieve the targets, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, this is a good one. Yeah. The management, we tend to set the targets higher as soon as they are achieved. Yeah, just waiting till nobody can achieve them anymore. Yeah. We will have a few examples as well when we look at different benchmarking and setting targets. Yeah. Companies, quite famously, like the Royal Mail, in the UK, nearly got bust on that basis by trying to hit their target with first-class delivery. And there was a little offshore islands that they tried to still deliver in one day that had so severe storms, so it became incredibly dangerous to deliver on the same day. Yeah? And a big company like the Royal Mail or the National Post, if you want, nearly got bankrupt on that basis, because they started investing too much resources actually into that effort. Yeah? Okay. Let's have a little bit a look. This is a little bit what I'm interested in. Yeah, I'm a huge fan, and we will have a whole session on this. Yeah, on culture and cultivating behavior is the right terminology from literature, but it's really a collaborative environment where everybody can perform to their optimum performance, if you want. Yeah. So that is how we have translated that prosaically. And there's a paper for you to read as well. Organizational happiness. Is this a job of a manager? Yeah, we had this already identified a little bit. Yeah, you said setting the right targets. Yeah? So this is what we do as a manager. We set targets, and you said as well, it's as well the availability. But is it a job of a leader? Is there a difference between manager and leader? This is a big question. And of course, this is a job of the team member. Which one would you place it, and why? Yeah.
I would say leader,
Okay, and why?
because I think the leader actually helps you to find place, find you where actually you are in the company, in the context of the company, to help you to, use the context of the company to help you to make your job in the best way, and by finding your own place you feel valued by the leader, so, and actually happiness with it.
So here you have given the leader kind of the role of creating this project into manageable parts, that you can get on with. And then it sounded a little bit like you're self-managing actually than the work that you get. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. And then bringing it back in a way as a recognition mechanism. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very good. Yeah.
But isn't the manager all three of those? You have to be a leader and you have to be a team member for it to function properly. Without those three, it's not going to be a good team.
Yeah, you could argue this. Yeah.
Because if you're out of the team, if you're not a team member, you're not paying attention to what's going on. If you're not a leader, you're not someone who they can approach.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not a manager, you're not managing the situation well.
Okay. So this is one happy organization, yeah, and it's certainly one that sounds good. But you have really indicated in a way, the leader was in a way outstanding from the team, so the team would perform. So here we have a little bit an indication of hierarchy, implicitly.
Yeah.
And
I
you
go
kind
with
of
the leader.
argue with for a flat notion, where it's integrated.
I go with the leader.
So you
Yes, I go with the leader because in an organizational setting,
Mhm.
there's hierarchy where the leader comes first, the manager, and the team members. So in a situation where the leader cannot lead
So
properly,
can we just distinguish this? So you had actually different people for all three, yeah?
yes.
Okay, I'm with you.
The leader is the first, and then followed by the manager and then the team members. So it's the leader that translates the vision of the company. Now, if the leader is well articulated, he's well trained in his profession, and he's a good project manager, he will be able to, he will be able to lead the organization. And at the end of the day, they'll achieve a certain goal, which is to, improve and meet the target, and then, so if the leader can motivate the manager or the management team and the team members, then the organization will be happy.
Okay, interesting. Oh, now it gets controversial. Yeah, please. Yeah.
I think those are the three qualities of a good project manager. He must be a good manager to manage the project. Then he must be a good leader, because a leader leads by example.
So you go back to history,
Yes,
yeah?
I believe it was better.
Okay.
Yeah, then he must be a good team member to be able to organize his teams well, and get views, and then issue out his own views. Then they reach a consensus like what we do in the seminars.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are the three qualities of a good project manager.
Okay, yeah?
I think there's a manager and leader are the same person. The thing is, like, leader is an outstanding manager. He's different from a manager because actually a manager maybe that doesn't have the same quality as a leader as.
We're right on the same track, bro.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Wouldn't that be a bad thing if your manager is not a leader?
Yeah. You'll be a bad project manager.
He'd be a bad man if he doesn't lead his team. That would be a terrible thing. He just manages and hopes things goes ahead. If he can lead your team, surely that's a better position to be than someone who just sits there.
And it will be a cost of waste. Like getting, you have to pay for a manager, you have to get a leader, and then you have to get a team member also. It's a waste.
But that's the hierarchy. It's in every
One
organization.
person can handle the three.
Yeah.
No.
Very good points. And I like the passions that move along. And let's have a look at this, actually. I can tell you, you are all right. Yeah, this is the thing. Yeah, a construction company in Japan, very famous, Toyota, have a look. Yeah, they built your villa in 4 days, yeah, which is pretty impressive. The leader is a visionary. He gives just a vision. It's a different person. He's a visionary for each project. Yeah, so it's often at director level in this Japanese company. Yeah, the manager belongs to the team. He's a motivator. He has not really the professional role, but he's the one that makes sure that they focus on the vision, who talks to the team members. So in Japan, we have a high leader distance. Yeah? So we have actually a hierarchy-oriented culture in this particular company. Yeah? Whilst in we can go with Skanska because this is one that I've looked at recently. In a Swedish company, Skanska in the UK, flat hierarchy. It's exactly what you said. Manager, leader are all the same. Actually, a lot of team members become leaders when it comes to their role. Yeah, they are actually the person that says, wait a minute, we cannot do it this way. We have to consider our aspects. So it's a very flat hierarchy, and it creates a very different environment. But it means all the team members have to sing along. Yeah, so responsibility is just set in a different way. But we will look at that in a lot of detail. But I like the debate. Thank you very much for this. This was fascinating. Yeah, so you have to be aware. This depends really very much on your organizational setting. Yeah, what the roles are, and we have to as well get our head around this. Yeah, manager, leader, clearly not the same thing. You say it's good when they are, yeah, but sometimes they are not. What do you do then? Yeah. No, but when we come to definitions, the literature is not very clear on that. More recently, we kind of have agreed that leader and manager is a good combination to be. Yeah? Because when you are only a manager and you don't have a leader, it creates a lot of dynamics that can be very unsettling. Yeah? And we have actually a lot of issues with this in the past 7 years. So if you read literature around that, you will see that. Yeah? Let's come a little bit to our team. We had that again in the seminar. I just want to catch up on a few other aspects. We haven't done that too much actually in the seminar. But what is important for you for happiness? what would you expect? We talked actually more about the dress sense, but what is it? Is it a clear desk? Is it a cluttered desk that it looks busy? Yeah, a new company car? Is this something that you want? A challenging job? What would you have there?
One thing I loved about working in the Middle East, there was something called a tea boy. So you go around giving you tea, coffee, whenever you needed it, no matter what. And it was brilliant, just to be able to sit at your desk and there's always a cup of tea. Always a cup of tea being brought to your desk. Loved that more than anything.
Yeah, you're actually right. That is probably really, it starts kind of in Turkey, yeah? If you look at the most Western northern countries, and then works probably down over Turkmenistan up to the border of India, depending on where you are. Yeah, so it's a lovely culture. Yeah,
you just feel it's nice and comfortable. It's always a cup of tea and a biscuit.
Yeah, is this something what would make it a happy company?
I think to me it's more like motivation. Yeah, recognition of individual efforts.
Okay. Yeah, so challenging job with the respective recognition. Yeah? Very good. But to the coffee cup, I want to give you the opposite. In Sweden, yeah, where I visit like 3 times a year, yeah, for my guest lectures, and there's a fascinating thing. We have a workshop where we all present our research, and then what is that? The equivalent of what's here, the vice chancellor comes and greets us. And they have a shared kitchen, so coffee and cookies are for free there. Yeah. And it's a rotating role of who's responsible for the cookies and coffee. And it goes, no matter where you are in the hierarchy, you can be the trainee or the vice chancellor. At some day, it's your role. And I couldn't believe that. At the day where I was there, it was a VC. And he had done the speech. And the first comment that my colleague did, she is just a, I say here just, she is a professor, yeah? She walked up to him, Jon, the coffee is empty. And I just stood there and was baffled about it. This is not how we interact here at Northumbria with our VC, yeah? Especially on tape, I should emphasize this, yeah? But this is not what we are used to, yeah? I was just like, oh, okay, fair enough, he's banned with the coffee, who would have thought? Yeah, and he apologized. He said like, thank you for telling me, I quickly put the new coffee on. Yeah, and this was just a different way of doing it. But there was as well, although coffee, yeah, but it was more, it was a different way of organizing it, yeah. So both exists, coffee culture and tea culture, yeah. It's a question, is there one that is better, one is worse? Yes, oh, okay. Why? Which one would you prefer?
Oh, well, no, just saying about the thing with the coffee.
Or do you have to say?
Yeah, like in the company, like basically once a week someone brings croissant in the company and take a cup of coffee, like in the same way. It's everything, everybody.
It rotates, yeah?
It rotates, yeah.
Okay. Oh, so it goes, it's maybe not as drastic, yeah, as in Sweden, or is it the same?
No, it's kind of the same, not the same, but it's the same.
So you wouldn't get bullied if you only bring 10 croissants, right?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so in Sweden it was quite drastic. I didn't see that coming. Yeah. Okay, but let's talk about a few other ones. So this was like kind of hospitality. Yeah, it's a very important part. Yeah, how are you made to be welcome? Is it an environment, you know, where they encourage you to stay, to maybe converse, yeah, to exchange your ideas, or maybe not. Yeah. So any other factors? You have the respect and recognition. Yeah. From your peers maybe, and your boss?
Your boss, yeah.
Mostly the boss.
We work.
Peers is not so?
No, not peers.
Okay.
I think maybe promotion.
Yeah, that's when you're recognized.
When you're recognized, then you can be
promoted
from a lower grade to higher grade, and basically an increase in salary.
Okay, now you are talking already quite sophisticated. So this means we have to, this is our flat hierarchy out of the door. Yeah? So we have to employ people, and then you start as a junior project manager, then you get promoted to
senior project manager.
This is too few layers, right? We need a few more. Yeah, okay, but you see the point, yeah? Then we have 2 layers. This is when we have a hierarchy and it gets steep. Yeah, but it can be motivation too, yeah?
Getting the right equipment when you actually ask for it.
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
having to wait
Yeah.
12 months to get it.
Yeah.
This sounds already like experience once traumatized. I need this now! Yeah, there's a wait of 1 month. Oh, okay. So basically having the tools ready when needed. This is quite tricky actually with a project. Yeah, so this means you have to coordinate that as well, that the tools are actually there at the right
It
time.
simple as, I need a printer. Please can you give me a printer?
Okay, this is a lot more basics than what I thought. Yeah,
Even some
I thought
basics,
okay.
It's just having the right equipment that you need. It's not just for the job, just that you need generally. I mean, you say a new computer. Yes, but a brand new computer that actually works, that hasn't been 4 years old or whatever, and is so slow that you can't do your work on it, or you don't have the right software, the right equipment for your work.
Yeah.
Ben, you don't want the new car?
I'm not actually.
Okay, so a new computer. That, I have to say, I should have really spotted that earlier. Yeah, you have a point. Yeah. So the right ICT really. Yeah. What does ICT stand for?
Information abuse
Yeah.
technology.
No, not computing, but information
Communication.
communication technology.
Technology.
Sorry.
Yeah. So to be it's spot on. That's a wonderful interpretation. Yeah. But in a way, it's essential that you actually have those. We will come to that. Yeah. It's hygiene factors, yeah, that really can make your life a little bit harder. You know, this is when your face slightly changes. Yeah, but we can actually test this. There's a fun exercise to do. You show people happy faces. If they recognize that those are happy faces, then they are kind of still sane. Yeah, then you show them slightly miserable faces. If they still recognize they are miserable faces, then they are still sane. If you do that with people where all these small hygiene factors, yeah, where the software doesn't open the file, email me the plans, quick. I don't have the right format. Can you bring it down to the old version? And they email it again, and then it works, but it's too big. Yeah, and your computer crashes.
For the admin, I hate that.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah. Then people actually in the workplace cannot recognize the miserable person anymore. Yeah. So we can do that test. Yeah? This is actually a very strong self-experience. Yeah? If you're slightly sad and you haven't noticed, you can find it out that way. You look at different faces. If you don't figure out who are slightly miserable, then your emotions have basically neutralized that in your brain. Yeah, this is quite dangerous. This is a point where, as a project manager, you have to think about changing the ICT equipment, quite frankly. Yeah, or as you said, bringing it up to speed. Yeah. So other examples.
To feel important.
Yeah.
To feel important.
To feel important. So to feel valued. Yeah.
Yeah, your opinion matters to others.
That's the part of the recognition.
Yeah, comes back to there's overlap. Yeah. So it's respected for what you're contributing. Yeah. Or what you have been recruited for in a way. Yeah, very important. Often underrated. Yeah. It's as well taking time as a project manager to recognizing this. Yeah, so it's easily overgone as well. Yeah, yeah.
So respect for everyone in the workplace, because I've worked in some places where some of the lower members of staff just are totally disrespected, and it actually got me quite angry, and it made me quite miserable working in the company to see how other people were treating some other members of staff. While I've worked in some companies where even the T-boy, he is given the same respect as everyone else in the office, and everyone else, it's a nice environment to be in where everyone has that level of respect of a human being.
This is in a way, it's a very important point. Yeah, to take time for that. But it depends as well. Yeah, how pushed you are. Yeah, are we by choice quite negative to our surrounding employees? Actually, some are. I should be careful here. Yeah, but it's often as well an indicator that you are actually on the brink on what you can actually do. So there's often already stress factor before you actually arrive at that.
But if there's that level of disrespect in the company, surely that will affect everybody's working habits.
Sure.
And if there's that level of disrespect, it's just going to make work tougher, harder. People aren't going to want to come into the office. If they're the lower guys, they might be doing an important job, but they won't want to come in. So that'll make your job a a million times harder just by not saying hello in the morning, how are you doing?
Well, we have a look at that in motivation actually, and there's a very sad fact. The empirices both can kind of improve performance and both can actually decrease it. It depends how you do it. So it can be as well quite a harsh environment where you are not treated very nice, and it can still improve the performance. But we have a look at that. It's certainly not a happy organization. I agree with that. Yeah. What about the new car? What one said like, hey, how about the new car? No, nobody?
Good salary.
Good salary instead. Yeah, you don't want
And
the
the
new
car.
car. I like that. Yeah. Okay.
Most companies give the cars their, as in like they call it a company car. In the morning takes you to job, to your workplace. In the evening it takes you back to your house. Most companies do. The most important thing is the promotion salary.
Okay, I like your evaluation. Yeah. As a project manager, yeah, you are often in a role where, depending on the company, but most of the times, you're probably working across different sites. You have as well to travel to meetings. It's actually quite common to have a new car. But what new car would you get? As a junior project manager, what would you expect? What do you want? Do you want a Fiat Punto?
No, a Hilux. A Hilux truck.
Oh, it's
That's for Nigeria, actually.
yeah. Okay. But that's it.
No, it's not for comfort.
Because most of the time,
It's a very rugged car that can
Yeah.
take you to wherever you want to go. It's mainly for projects.
Yeah.
So if I want to drive in a big car, maybe I get some maybe a Porsche car. You can't just drive a Ferrari to official appointment.
Yeah, it would look a little bit dubious.
Yeah.
They would say like, oh, this is how much we're paying them? Yeah. Okay.
But you can go with the Hilux truck.
Yeah.
Really good.
the Hilux truck or the trucks, they can trample any terrain. And Nigeria has a really bad terrain because of the spoiled roads and everything. So you won't be happy to be riding on your smooth car with low, and then the gallops and the rest of it. So you just be on the Hilux and then you're free. Go, come back.
Yeah, but you have made the key point. Yeah. You want a functional car, of course. Yeah. And this in some countries it's to do with status, yeah, which you have already indicated. Yeah. In other countries it's literally a car that gets you there. Yeah. This is always priority number one. Yeah. If the car doesn't get you where you want to go, then it's the wrong car. Yeah.
I've worked with someone who didn't get a company car, and it actually niggled him so much, it ate him inside, the fact that the managers all had cars, and he was very high up, but the company refused to get him even a rental car, and it ate him up inside. So it did him a lot of damage just by not having a company car. So it can be quite damaging.
Yeah, comparison. It can work the wrong way around as well, and eat you up inside. Yeah. Especially if you see they have it and you don't.
He didn't have a car. He couldn't get to projects. He had to have lifts off the other members of staff who had a company car.
Yeah. Okay, this is kind of rubbing it every day into your face.
Yeah.
So it's quite a confrontational approach. Yeah? But okay. Yeah, so we had a few factors here, and in a way we have covered that. So and it seems to be really, really important. But does this organizational happiness mean as well that you are successful? This is a big question. Yeah? And we had already examples, yeah, where we see this, where we don't see this. So we have to look a little bit as a context of how we can get there. Where are we in the time? Let's have a look. We were halfway. I can offer you either a 5 minutes break or we push on and finish early. What would you prefer? Who wants a break? Yeah? Anyway? Oh, you want one?
No. If no one else does.
That was a bad question. Yeah. If somebody needs a break or needs to go to the toilet, just help yourself, and then we just push on. Okay, let's have a look actually at this. I hope this was a bad idea. Well made. This may be loud.
When I was 7 years old and my sister was just 5 years old, we were playing on top of a bunk bed. I was 2 years older than my sister at the time. I mean, I'm 2 years older than her now, but at the time that meant she had to do everything that I wanted to do, and I wanted to play war. So we were up on top of our bunk beds, and on one side of the bunk bed I had put out all my G.I. Joe soldiers and weaponry, and on the other side were all my sister's Milos and ponies and ready for a cavalry charge. There are different accounts of what actually happened that afternoon, but since my sister is not here with us today, let me tell you the true story. Which is my sister is a little bit on the clumsy side, and somehow, without any help or push from her older brother at all, suddenly Amy disappeared off the top of the bunk bed and landed with this crash on the floor. And I nervously peered over the side of the bed to see what had befallen my fallen sister, and saw that she had landed painfully on her hands and knees on all fours on the ground. I was nervous because my parents had charged me with making sure that my sister and I played as safely and as quietly as possible. And seeing as how I had accidentally broken Amy's arm just 1 week before, heroically pushing her out of the way of an oncoming imaginary sniper bullet, for which I have yet to be thanked. I was trying as hard as I could. She didn't even see it coming. I was trying as hard as I could to be on my best behavior, and I saw my sister's face this wail of pain and suffering and surprise, threatening to erupt from her mouth and threatening to wake my parents from the long winter's nap for which they had settled. So I did the only thing my little frantic 7-year-old brain could think to do to avert this tragedy. If you have children, you've seen this hundreds of times before. I said, Amy, wait, don't cry, don't cry. Did you see how you landed? No human lands on all fours like that. Amy, I think this means you're a unicorn. Now that was cheating, because there's nothing in the world my sister would want more than not to be Amy the hurt 5-year-old little sister, but Amy the special unicorn. Of course, this was an option that was open to her brain at no point in the past. And you could see on my poor, manipulated sister's face conflict, as her little brain attempted to devote resources to feeling the pain and suffering and surprise she just experienced, or contemplating her newfound identity as a unicorn. And the latter won out. Instead of crying, instead of ceasing our play, instead of waking my parents with all the negative consequences that would have ensued for me, instead a smile spread across her face, and she scrambled right back up onto the bunk bed with all the grace of a baby unicorn. With one broken leg. What we stumbled across at this tender age of just 5 and 7, we had no idea at the time, was something that was going to be at the vanguard of a scientific revolution occurring 2 decades later in the way that we look at the human brain. What we had stumbled across is something called positive psychology, which is the reason that I'm here today and the reason that I wake up every morning. When I first started talking about this research outside of academia, out with companies and schools, the very first thing they said to never do is to start your talk with a graph. The very first thing I wanted to do is start my talk with a graph. This graph looks boring, but this graph is the reason that I get excited and wake up every morning. And this graph doesn't even mean anything, it's fake data. What we found is, if I got this data back studying you here in the room, I would be thrilled, because there's very clearly a trend that's going on there, and that means that I can get published, which is all that really matters. The fact that there's one weird red dot that's up above the curve, there's one weird in the room, you know who you are, I saw you earlier. That's no problem. That's no problem, as most of you know, because I can just delete that dot. I can delete that dot because that's clearly a measurement error, and we know that's a measurement error because it's messing up my data. So one of the very first things that we teach people in economics and statistics and business and psychology courses is how, in a statistically valid way, do we eliminate the weirdos? How do we eliminate the outliers? So that we can find the line of best fit, which is fantastic if I'm trying to find out how many Advil the average person should be taking, too. But if I'm interested in potential, if I'm interested in your potential, or for happiness, or productivity, or energy, or creativity, what we're doing is we're creating the cult of the average with science. If I ask a question like, how fast can the child learn how to read in a classroom? Scientists change the answer to, how fast does the average child learn how to read in that classroom? And then we tailor the class right towards the average. Now, if you fall below the average on this curve, then psychologists get thrilled, because that means you're either depressed, or you have disorder, or hopefully both. We're hoping for both because our business model is if you come into a therapy session with one problem, we want to make sure you leave knowing you have 10. So you'll keep coming back over and over again. We'll go back into your childhood if necessary, but eventually what we want to do is to make you normal again. But normal is merely average. And what I posit, and what positive psychology posits, is that if we study what is merely average, we will remain merely average. That instead of deleting those positive outliers, what I intentionally do is come into a population like this one and says, why? Why is it that some of you are so high above the curve in terms of your intellectual ability, athletic ability, musical ability, creativity, energy levels, your resiliency in the face of challenge, your sense of humor? Whatever it is, instead of deleting you, what I want to do is study you. Because maybe we can glean information, not just how to move people up to the average, but how we can move the entire average up at our companies and schools worldwide. The reason this graph is important to me is when I turn on the news, it seems like the majority of the information is not positive. In fact, it's negative. Most of it's about murder, corruption, diseases, natural disasters, and very quickly, my brain starts to think that's the accurate ratio of negative to positive in the world. What that's doing is creating something called the medical school syndrome, which if you know people who have been to medical school during the first year of medical training, as you read through a list of all the symptoms and diseases that could happen, suddenly you realize you have all of them. I have a brother-in-law named Bobo, which is a whole other story. Bobo married Amy the unicorn. Bobo called me on the phone from Yale Medical School. From Yale Medical School, and Bobo said, Sean, I have leprosy. Which even at Yale is extraordinarily rare. But I had no idea how to console poor Bobo because he had just gotten over an entire week of menopause. See, what we're finding is that not necessarily the reality that shapes us, but the lens through which your brain views the world that shapes your reality. And if we can change the lens, not only can we change your happiness, we can change every single educational and business outcome at the same time. When I applied to Harvard, I applied on a dare. I didn't expect to get in, and my family had no money for college. When I got a military scholarship 2 weeks later, they allowed me to go. Suddenly something that wasn't even a possibility became reality. When I went there, I assumed everyone else would see it as a privilege as well, that they'd be excited to be there. Even if you're in a classroom full of people smarter than you, you'd be happy just to be in that classroom, which is what I felt. But what I found there is while some people experienced that, when I graduated after my 4 years and then spent the next 8 years living in the dorms with the students, Harvard asked me to. I wasn't that guy. But what happened... I was an officer at Harvard to counsel students through the difficult 4 years, and what I found in my research and my teaching is that these students, no matter how happy they were with their original success of getting into the school, 2 weeks later their brains were focused not on the privilege of being there, nor on their philosophy or their physics. Their brain was focused on the competition, the workload, the hassles, the stresses, the complaints. When I first went in there, I walked into the freshman dining hall, which is where my friends from Waco, Texas, which is where I grew up. I know some of you have heard of it. When they come to visit me, they look around, they say, this freshman dining hall looks like something off Hogwarts from the movie Harry Potter, which it does. This is Hogwarts from the movie Harry Potter, and that's Harvard. When they see this, they say, Sean, why do you waste your time studying happiness at Harvard? Seriously, what does a Harvard student possibly have to be unhappy about? Embedded within that question is the key to understanding the science of happiness. Because what that question assumes is that our external world is predictive of our happiness levels. When in reality, if I know everything about your external world, I can only predict 10% of your long-term happiness. 90% of your long-term happiness is predicted not by the external world, but by the way your brain processes the world. And if we change it, if we change our formula for happiness and success, what we can do is change the way that we can then affect reality. What we found is that only 25% of job successes are predicted by IQ. 75% of job successes are predicted by your optimism levels, your social support, and your ability to see stress as a challenge instead of as a threat. I talked to a boarding school up in New England, probably the most prestigious boarding school, and they said, we already know that. So every year, instead of just teaching our students, we also have a wellness week, and we're so excited. Monday night, we have the world's leading expert coming in to speak about adolescent depression. Tuesday night is school violence and bullying. Wednesday night's eating disorders. Thursday night is the illicit drug use. And Friday night, we're trying to decide between risky sex or happiness. I said that's most people's Friday nights. Which I'm glad you liked, but they did not like that at all. Silence on the phone. And into the silence, I said, I'd be happy to speak to your school, but just so you know, that's not a wellness week, that's a sickness week. What you've done is you've outlined all the negative things that can happen, but not talked about the positive. The absence of disease is not health. Here's how we get to health. We need to reverse the formula for happiness and success. In the past 3 years, I've traveled to 45 different countries, working with schools and companies in the midst of an economic downturn. And what I found is that most companies and schools follow a formula for success, which is this. If I work harder, I'll be more successful. And if I'm more successful, then I'll be happier. That undergirds most of our parenting styles, our managing styles, the way that we motivate our behavior. And the problem is, it's scientifically broken and backwards for two reasons. First, every time your brain has a success, you just change the goalpost of what success looked like. You got good grades, now you have to get better grades. You got into a good school, now you have to get a better school. You got a good job, now you have to get a better job. You hit your sales target, we're going to change your sales target. And if happiness is on the opposite side of success, your brain never gets there. What we've done is we've pushed happiness over the cognitive horizon as a society. And that's because we think we have to be successful, then we'll be happier. But the real problem is our brains work in the opposite order. If you can raise somebody's level of positivity in the present, then their brain experiences what we now call a happiness advantage, which is your brain in positive performs significantly better than it does in negative, neutral, or stressed. Your intelligence rises, your creativity rises, your energy levels rise. In fact, what we found is that every single business outcome improves. Your brain at positive is 31% more productive than your brain at negative, neutral, or stressed. You're 37% better at sales. Doctors are 19% faster and more accurate at coming up with the correct diagnosis when positive instead of negative, neutral, or stressed, which means we can reverse the formula. If we can find a way of becoming positive in the present, then our brains work even more successfully, as we're able to work harder, faster, and more intelligently. What we need to be able to do is reverse this formula so we can start to see what our brains are actually capable of. Because dopamine, which floods into your system when you're positive, has two functions. Not only does it make you happier, it turns on all the learning centers in your brain, allowing you to adapt to the world in a different way. We found that there are ways you can train your brain to be able to become more positive. In just a 2-minute span of time, done for 21 days in a row, we can actually rewire your brain, allowing your brain to actually work more optimistically and more successfully. We've done these things in research now in every single company that I've worked with, getting them to write down 3 new things that they're grateful for 21 days in a row, 3 new things each day, and at the end of it, their brain starts to retain a pattern of scanning the world not for the negative, but for the positive first. Journaling about one positive experience you've had over the past 24 hours allows your brain to relive it. Exercise teaches your brain that your behavior matters. We find that meditation allows your brain to get over the cultural ADHD that we've been creating by trying to do multiple tasks at once, and allows our brains to focus on the task at hand. And finally, random acts of kindness or conscious acts of kindness. We get people, when they open up their inbox, to write one positive email, praising or thanking somebody in their social support network. And by doing these activities, and by training your brain, just like we train our bodies, what we found is we can reverse the formula for happiness and success, and in doing so, not only create ripples of positivity, but create a real revolution. Thank you very much.
So quite a plea of how to go about it. I have it on the next one. Yeah, I use salt in. So what are the key points here that we should take on board from that? Yeah?
Be positive.
Yeah, be positive. I like that as a general attitude. But what were kind of the refined ingredients of this, maybe? Yeah.
Focus on the positive side. You know, look at three good things in your life and do this. Focusing on the positive now rather than in the future. This is what I'm aiming for. Focus on today.
Yeah, this is certainly one of the bullet points. Yeah, very good. Yeah. So what do we do normally as project managers? If you lead a project, what do you communicate to your team members about?
About the issues, the problems.
Yeah.
Start with the problems and the issues, and then you probably don't have enough time to look at the positive things.
Yeah. It's very easy to let that slip. Yeah, to just recognize this worked really well. To take that pause and recognize it as well. It comes back to what a few of you identified. Yeah, the respect as well when something works well. Yeah, in some cultures this is even essential to keep the organization going. Now, there's a famous case, a little bit of laugh on account of German companies. It's always, I think, something worth doing. Siemens, has a new power plant in China. That kind of interconnect. China's power network is amazing in many respects, but they basically were supposed to build a new power plant. Yeah? And Siemens has, of course, recruited Chinese employees, and this German manager, to actually get to the director level, you have to basically work internationally as well, that you get the whole company to know. And here was this project in China, and he was renowned to have like excellent performance standards, hitting all the KPIs and great motivator in Germany. Yeah, but then the sad discovery came after 1 month working in China. His team was depressed. Yeah, they didn't actually. Some didn't want to work anymore. Yeah, one guy I think asked for actually changing departments. So it was really bad, and he couldn't understand why that was. Like he basically spoke to them. He was very direct with them. He pointed out, yeah, this is not going right. We have to work on that. Yeah, and then after a while, he talked actually to a manager that was in that department before, who was now leading, I think, in China actually as a director, the subsidiary of Siemens in that area. And it came out that he had in Germany, how do we, Netherlands works as well. How do you motivate the Netherlands? Stereotypical, sorry, this has not to be too accurate.
Pat on the back and say well done.
Oh, you do this?
Not really.
Oh yeah, exactly. I just wanted to say, yeah, this is somewhere in the literature, but in reality,
Yeah, I've never seen it happen, so I don't know.
exactly. Yeah, this is it. You have no complaints. This is good for Germans and Dutch, right? No issues. We are a superstar. We walk proudly around. Yeah, but quite frankly, that doesn't do it for most other cultures. Yeah. So Germany has just as a motivation tool stick. Yeah, this is a donkey metaphor. Yeah, how do you make a donkey move? Yeah, you talk to him, but the donkey doesn't want to move. Now, in motivation theory, it's very simplified. You have the carrot. Yeah, you hang it on a stick with a little rope in front of his nose, and he starts moving towards it and wants to eat it. So you move the donkey. Yeah. The alternative is give him a clap, I guess, on the back with the stick. So this is unfortunately what was common in that company. And the manager just gave a very direct dialogue. He never actually recognized when something was done well. But in this particular team culture, yeah, in this company, in Siemens, yeah, in the geography of China, they were requiring as well the positive feedback. And that is what he's referring to. Yeah? It had such a huge impact, especially if you had that before. Suddenly you don't have that anymore. You never get recognized again for that. Yeah? Then it's particularly destroying. If you come from a Dutch or German culture, yeah, okay, we were kind of used to it, yeah. But there is an element of this, yeah.
Isn't psychology of criticism is positive, and then the negative, and then another positive to make people feel better again?
Yeah, well, if you actually read the papers, he has probably presented it that way, and there's certainly that aspect. Certainly his drastic example with his poor sister, yeah. There's an element of that, but you have to be careful because you're basically tricksing the relationship. So he actually points out that that does work, but your team is then potentially not very aware anymore what are issues and what needs attention and when something actually was good, because you just give mixed message. So functionality or accountability should be I think sustained. What were other aspects? Maybe one more aspect, and then we move on from that TED talk. What was another aspect that was important?
Well, if you keep on postponing the targets and make them sharper, you can never be happy in that way.
Yeah, this is certainly as well one of my favorites in project management. I've seen that so many times. The project manager had actually targets that became the actual set targets that were achievable. So just to be on the safe side, they realized, the team is working very well. Do you know what? We can achieve this under the cost. And all the workers were like, how? And the motivation levels before working to targets, hitting the set targets can be such a motivation point, especially when you have your gates and you achieve them. Yeah, this shows you're on track. Some of the projects, especially if you're in construction, if it's a big infrastructure project, it's a long time, you don't want to wait 10 years to see if it was right or wrong. It's the targets work as well as a motivational stone, but then keep them as well that they are achievable. If you don't achieve them, change the scheduling. Clearly you don't have the capacity. Don't set further crazy targets. Yeah? So last planner is a good thing actually if you have a situation like that. But we will have a look at that later. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But have a look. There are deep lessons on that account. We filter in on that. But psychology is a very strong tool, yeah, and be a little bit careful with work psychology. I've as well recommended the book. Yeah, the newest version has actually happy psychology in it. Happy, yeah. It's not so much looking at the norms, but looking actually at project teams and high-performing management teams. And there are very different criteria to it. Yeah, so we don't necessarily have a team full of depressed people, which is often assumed in some of the psychology books, yeah, and that is important to recognize that we can actually do a lot as project managers. Yeah. Any other observations, maybe? Anything that resonated with you?
I think to be happy, sometimes we need to think outside the book. We need to think outside our workplaces. We need to take some time out. We need to, like married men, to take your wives and your kids. Think about the family, like something that takes you off the job for some time, so that you can psychologically you can get back yourself, and then maybe the next day or the next week you can go back to work. Yeah. Something that, like the guys, you can take some time out to the bar, cinemas, just to take your mind off the work for some time.
Yeah, you're spot on, and that was as well one work-life balance. Yeah, keep it in a healthy way. Cinema is one choice, yeah, but yeah, there are many options. Yeah, so and keep it diverse. Yeah, try new things. So this was another thing. Yeah, try to do something creative every day. Yeah, so and then there was as well sport and so forth. Yeah, so there are different elements to it. Yeah, that keep you really in this balance, because otherwise it's quite easy as well to what is the cause otherwise. Yeah, we are in a very stressful environment. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, but we have to keep the stress functional. You know? So stressful environment can bring the best out of you. Yeah, but if you have that brink where you see actually everything as daunting, then it's very easy to fall into that depression. And this is why psychology is so interested in project or high-performing project teams, because it is exactly on that edge. And this is worth recognizing. Yeah? Okay, thank you very much. This was wonderful. Okay, let's have a little bit a look at culture actually, and we will unfold that as well. I will tell you a little bit in the next sessions about national cultures, different workplace cultures, and we will look as well at the right term is hermeneutic of communities. Yeah? So this means we have like a history. We learn how our pre-successors, our family, our previous workers, our co-workers that left our position did it, to then just learn that we have to find our own way anyway, and that will be quite fascinating. But here I just want to actually maybe bring it back a little bit to the people notion. Yeah? So managing people is all about getting things done through them, not simply keeping everybody apparently busy and happy. So there's a difference. Yeah? So keeping everybody in your team all the time happy is nearly impossible. Yeah? It's good if you have like a general happy organization, a happy project, is what my colleague from VW always says. So I think after a while I would get actually upset with him if I would really work as a project manager for him, because he writes always at the end of his email, happy projects. Yeah? And yeah, that has won me up before, but not seriously. Yeah? But he writes that as well when I'm just telling like, it's really hectic, I don't have time, happy projects. Okay. So clearly he's not worried, but yeah. So coming back to that, so we are of course after achieving the goal. So we want in a team, everybody in a position where they can perform what they're doing, and not us as a project manager jumping in and doing it for them. Yeah? There may be times when that is required, but it's really about enabling your team members, yeah, and the people that you're bringing in to do their job. Yeah. So actually we had those in the seminars where I don't want to compete. I did want to repeat them a little bit. Yeah, wait a minute. Let's have a look at the time. No, okay. I will jump quickly through those. So we will actually have a look at these in the seminars. what I wanted to cover quickly as well is a little bit an action system. Yeah? So when you look actually at cultures, they lead to certain responses. Yeah? So what is actually culture to you? What would you define as culture? Yeah?
The attitude of that particular area.
Attitude, yeah?
Habits.
So, habits, yeah?
Principles.
Yeah? Sorry?
Principles.
Principles, yeah?
Behaviors.
Yeah, behaviors, yeah. Yeah, it's all true. If you want to summarize it in a nutshell, it's normally what geographically or locally as a group of people has refined to be a practice of sustaining life. Yeah, this is a most big one in anthropology, you would probably find that. If you look then at projects, you would probably say it's a way of doing things there, yeah, quite frankly. And if you extend it a little bit, you could probably say as well, culture is lessons learned where we don't yet understand why we needed to learn that in the first place. Yeah, so culture has a tradition, it's often handed on, yeah, from previous generation to you. Yeah, and you are brought up in it, so you naturally have as well a culture that you bring along based on your past experience, yeah, what you have been doing. Yeah? So, okay, we work with that for now. Culture leads to action. Yeah? The way we do things around here is the notion that I tried to summarize it. Yeah? All organizations, companies, businesses, projects are action systems, so you can view them as such. You could even go and say that the project itself is, you bring actors together, yeah, that they all can act, and you create an agency and do it. Yeah? So what is an agency? It's a movement. Yeah? So you as a project manager or as a leader, you inspire them to follow you and help you doing what you want to do. Yeah, and it resonates in the way we are doing things around here. Yeah? So here we have a few definitions. They are really old. Yeah, there's a joke to it afterwards. Yeah, but it's behavior and experience. Yeah, so behaviors we can as well train or subscribe. It's work versus home. Yeah, there's a work-life balance potentially. Public versus private. Yeah. But what do you make of those? Is there a difference between work versus home, or is it the same? Before we engage with a joke from Oscar Wilde. Work versus home, is it the same? Do you separate it?
Yes, have to.
You have to. Why?
You can't put the same strain on your kids and expect them to do all the tasks that you set them as you would in an office.
Okay, so you are a little bit kinder to them.
Yes, you're not delegating them tasks and setting them targets to meet by bedtime.
Okay, you have a kinder childhood than other children potentially, yeah? or your children do. Yeah? Okay, yeah, but there's a notion here, you differentiate already quite
And
accurately.
you definitely can't set your wife targets because she'll kill you.
Okay, I like that, yeah. So you have identified, yeah, the wife or the marriage as a relationship with extensive, yeah, wait a minute, how would you say that? Conflict potential, yeah? Okay. So this is quite interesting, yeah? It's a closer relationship where negotiation is even more painful than in the job. That is what you are saying to us, yeah? Okay, yeah, intenser, yeah?
No, I think our job is more related to a means of financial gain or financial income, whatever financial way, but home is not a source of finance. So you can't be paid for doing your homework or for being a father to your children, but you can be paid at work for being a project manager or for being a staff.
Okay, we'll tease it a little bit out. Yeah. So here's the scenario. When I worked as a project manager in Cape Town, initially we were asked if we want to do as well, if we be involved in the external engagement with our supply chain, with our partners, with our clients, and we would be rewarded in soft rewards. So we basically declared, well, everybody that did it, they declared their hobbies, what they like to do in their free time, and then they would be matched with clients. So at that time I was quite young, so I got matched for sports events, concerts, and going for dinner, in the evening. And I would literally get that managed from my secretary. She would ask if I would be fine to take actually the guys from the construction management company out for dinner. Yeah, and then it would be all paid for. Yeah, so I got a company card, and I would take them out for dinner. We would talk about business, but as well socialize to get to know each other, improve our relations, and do that. And it would go as far that they would just do like certain sports, and even on those sports I got matched up. Would you do that? I didn't get much money for it additionally, I just could pay everything with on that account.
Well, that's good fun. It's stuff that you like as well, so it's more an activity, social event rather than work almost.
Okay, yeah, can be fun. And for me this was okay, yeah, so it kind of fits, but do you see it as something? Yeah?
Because when I used to have to take clients out, do like corporate do, so there'll be, you take a table and it'll be, black tie, like you were talking about before. And sometimes it was quite good fun, but depending on the client, sometimes it was just hard work, depending on whether they relaxed or not. So sometimes you had a really good night, and other times it was painful.
Yeah. How long is a cricket test match? Does anybody know? This would be a serious commitment, yeah? That would be your free time after work out of the door, yeah?
But you have to enjoy cricket.
Yeah, that too. What I'm saying is, yeah, a lot of companies move towards that, yeah? So if you go in a big company and you work international, in some countries this is expected. You have to build relationships, yeah? Other colleagues of mine that worked in Abu Dhabi, it's a tea culture, yeah. Actually, what you pointed out, yeah. If you have to, there are certain points with timing in general around there, but what it came to, they spent as well a lot of time in the evening waiting for clients or prospect colleagues, yeah, that they wanted to work with on a particular project, and it was all about gaining the trust. Once you have the trust, then you can do business together. Yeah, but it's first a step. And how do you divide it then? Yeah.
I'd definitely say in the Middle East, trust is one of the biggest issues. If you don't trust the family or the other people you're working for, you just never touch them. And it goes back in history. It doesn't just go to the last business transaction. It goes much, much further back if you're a local. To the point is, no, your family did this in the past. We don't want to work for you.
Yeah. So there is that in some occasions. Yeah. It's not always as clear-cut as work and home. Yeah? It has its benefits and its disadvantages. Yeah? Disadvantages, as you pointed already out, yeah, it's wearing. You potentially don't even have the free will to do what you want in your free time, because you're being kind of asked, hey, do you have time at that time? Do you go surfing or something like that? This is then very critical. Or do you want to play tennis again on the weekend? Yeah. That is when it gets very dangerous, I can tell you that. Yeah? We have as well another notion, behavior in terms of public versus private. Are you do you find it important to separate this?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Definitely.
How do you do this?
Facebook, don't use it.
Facebook, don't use it. I
It's
like
out
that.
there, if that's your private life and you're putting it out there, and other businesses are looking at your Facebook account, that's not a good thing.
Is that a possibility? Is anybody working in a flat hierarchy company? Has worked in a flat hierarchy company? I did worse. There was a company Facebook page, so which made it even more tricky. Yeah, but okay. So you say don't use it. What is the concern? Why not?
Unless it's completely private and only people, you've got to be very careful on your security settings on that. Because if you, let's say, you've gone out on a night out drinking and you've got photos of, someone's taken photos of you on that night, you're going out to meet a client the next day, and they're seeing you at your absolute worst, a complete mess, and they're thinking, do we really want to work with this person? Probably not.
Yeah. So potentially breaking cultural expectations, actually. This is the worst. In some cultures, having a beer together, belongs to the good tone.
Yeah.
In other cultures, unthinkable. So be aware in what area you're working, with whom you're working. Do you actually comply to that, or maybe not share your Facebook on that notion? That the self-security. Maybe other examples.
Yeah, so like for opinions or political opinions or whatever, like there's something you have to keep it private because actually it can make you lose some jobs or clients. Because for example, if you're not from the right political party, I mean, if the guys actually see it or know it, can be actually bad for you. So you have to separate things you want to show or public and things you keep it for you and that's all.
What are the 3 no-no themes for any kind of if you want business dinner that should probably treat it with care?
One is definitely politics.
Yeah, politics. What other ones?
Religion?
Yeah.
Challenging each other. Well, it starts always with challenging. Being curious about it is actually okay, but it often narrows down then and on confronting as well. So politics, religion. What else? This depends now on the culture. There's a 4th dimension potentially.
Sex?
Yeah, okay. It's good that I said 4. Yeah. What else?
Family.
Oh, I see. No, family is normally okay, but it's money. Yeah. It's money and in some cultures sex. Yeah. But money, religion, and politics is kind of universal. But then depending on where you are, you want to take care of additional topics too. So they're of course all interesting, but treat them with extreme care. Does that make sense? Yeah. There's certainly the divide between public and private. Is this always sustained in your work environments where you have been? Do you do that fine divide between public and private?
Yes. Middle East especially, you don't really, if you do go out drinking, you don't really go out to your bosses or your friends who are out drinking last night, got absolutely plastered, because really they will lose a lot of respect for you.
Yeah.
You know, there are certain things you don't say. You went out to be smoking pot or whatever. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't say that to your people because people will talk about it, and people will lose some face of respect for you.
I think that's mainly based on their religion. Yeah. In the Arab world, I think alcohol is against their religion. So it's just like.
What aspect is? You mean like the general behavior? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
In Arab country where they practice Islam, alcohol is against their religion. So if you have to take alcohol, maybe alcohol, or like in this dressing, in the standard here in UK, is someone in a very short skirt and something else, and over here it's normal. It's like the way of life here, so nobody sees that as indecent dressing. Or you can dress like that in maybe Dubai or and some other areas in Africa, like in Nigeria, the core northern states. You don't dress like that. So you if you're working or you work with a company and you dress that way, they will sack you. But over here, although in some corporate institutions you have to watch what you wear, but I feel the indecent side of it is not really put into consideration that much.
So we have here a few dimensions. Yeah? So when we come to governance, we look a little bit at that. A word of warning: religion is normally just associated with Christian beliefs. Yeah? So you would probably say it's a monotheism or a belief. Yeah? But nonetheless, there's a lot that is probably grounded in if you want, belief structures, but it's often lived out on a local level or regional level by norms. Yeah, you can see that people have certain expectations, and religion already emphasizes that everybody that embraces those norms kind of believes strong too. Yeah, but this is of course not necessarily true. It's as well a self-enforced norm. Yeah, because people don't see this very often. It comes as a surprise. Yeah, and this is then something that you have to look out for, and potentially as a project manager, all these topics may actually affect on your practice. Yeah? So it means as well that you have to potentially negotiate or make people aware of the norms actually of team members to keep the project actually at a functional level. Yeah. Okay, I had here as well a quote in it just to polarize it, but there was the old chestnut from Oscar Wilde apparently. I'm not quite sure if he actually said that, yeah, because in his memoirs you can find the individual terms, but not in that combination. So this may be actually stolen from somebody else, but it's connotated with him. It's basically work is the curse of the drinking classes, and he didn't really say that to bring the connotation of drinking alcohol out. At that time, quite frankly, alcohol was a healthy choice. Yeah? This is why when you look at the old monotheisms, there is no book that talks actually about alcohol badly. You will see that there are everywhere loops. It's new interpretations actually of that, because quite frankly you couldn't drink the water. Quite often alcohol would be a way of drinking something that wouldn't poison you, although it did poison you in other ways. Yeah? But this notion was really a recognition that people kind of perceived work as a thing that you did to live. Yeah, sorry, this is the hidden interpretation, and the drinking was more seen as socializing and not having to work. So it was seen as something negative. Yeah, and this is as well where this work and home differentiation came from, or public and private. Public was where you behaved well, where you dressed up, where you would have a certain status on the street, and then private would be where you would let your hair down. There are a lot of quotes like that, yeah, where you lived basically out what would make you happy. Yeah, so that there was that divide, and we still have that. Yeah, that there's this prescribed behavior, norms that you are supposed to live up to, and then the actual experience, yeah, how we actually cope with it and dealt with it, and those are of course different. Do I want to go into this now further? No, we do that next time. Okay, any questions at that point? Okay, I hope I made you think a little bit. Please don't forget, for those of you that had already the seminar, please join us next week at 3 o'clock in Wayne Jones. It should be already on your calendar. Yeah, so check your calendar, it has updated. And don't forget to read the paper. Yeah, one of the papers in the e-learning paper, and work through the individual pieces. Yeah, and start as well searching for potential articles for your paper that you are writing. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Okay, for the others, I see you later.